The setting sun filtered through the tall glass windows of Tesla's office, casting a soft orange hue over the serene space. Elon Musk sat pensively in his leather chair, his gaze fixed on the San Francisco horizon. The conversation with a colleague about human social behavior lingered in his mind. An idea suddenly sparked, a social experiment about human nature. What would happen if people didn't recognize him? How would they treat someone who appeared to have nothing but worn-out clothes? A few weeks later, in a discreet room in downtown Santa Fe, New Mexico, the plan began to take shape. A team of makeup artists worked meticulously, transforming the tech billionaire into a man who looked like he had endured a tough life. In a private makeup room, the glow of specialized LED lights illuminated every detail of the billionaire's familiar face. Elon sat silently in a black leather chair, allowing the skilled hands of the makeup artists to perform their craft. Layers of specialized makeup were applied, gradually altering his facial features. "We'll add subtle wrinkles around the eyes and mouth," explained the lead makeup artist, her hands deftly working with brushes and powders. "These small details will create the impression of a life filled with hardship." Elon watched his transformation in the mirror. Familiar features slowly faded, replaced by a different face, older, wearier, as though it had weathered years of struggle. A strange mix of anticipation and anxiety rose within him as he thought about the upcoming experiment. "I want to look natural," he emphasized. "Not too extreme, just someone going through tough times." The team nodded in agreement. They understood the importance of creating a convincing image that no one would associate with Elon Musk, yet not so exaggerated as to draw unnecessary attention. The outfit was carefully selected from a local thrift store: a faded gray shirt, worn jeans frayed at the knees, and a pair of secondhand sneakers with light scuff marks. Each item was chosen to convey the impression of someone facing challenges, but striving to maintain a semblance of dignity. "This wig will complete your look," the costume supervisor said, as she placed a custom-designed wig on Elon's head. The hair was slightly gray, cut imperfectly to suggest a person without the means for regular grooming. When Elon looked in the mirror one last time, he barely recognized himself. The man reflected back appeared about 10 years older, with deep worry lines etched across his forehead and around his eyes. His shoulders slouched slightly, as if burdened by the weight of life's struggles. "Perfect," he whispered softly. "No one will recognize me." Before leaving the makeup room, Elon spent a few minutes practicing his new movements and gestures. Gone were his usual confident, steady strides, replaced by a slower, slightly hesitant walk with an occasional slight hunch. He practiced speaking in a softer, sometimes trembling voice, imitating someone lacking confidence. The car that took him to the Copper Elm was not the familiar Tesla or a luxurious supercar, but an ordinary taxi. On the way, Elon keenly felt the change in how others perceived him. Gone were the curious or admiring glances. Instead, there was indifference, sometimes even avoidance. The Copper Elm emerged in the twilight, elegant and sophisticated with its classic Victorian architecture. The tall floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the sunset, creating a picturesque scene. Outside the restaurant, a row of luxury cars lined the driveway, and well-dressed patrons strolled inside. Elon stood on the opposite sidewalk, observing the scene before him. His heart raced, not out of fear, but from excitement and curiosity about what was about to unfold. This was no longer an abstract idea. It had become a reality, and he was about to step into an experience that might reshape his perspective on society. Taking a deep breath, he crossed the street and approached the restaurant's grand entrance. Each step was deliberate, not too fast to seem hurried, not too slow to draw attention. As he got closer, he could hear the soft music and the murmur of conversation emanating from inside. Standing before the heavy oak doors of the Copper Elm, Elon felt a strange sensation. For the first time in years, he was about to enter a public space where no one knew who he was. No bodyguards, no assistants, no special treatment, just an ordinary man in worn-out clothes. The soft chime of a bell sounded as he pushed the door open. Warm air and the aroma of gourmet dishes filled the space. The soft lighting from crystal chandeliers created an ambiance that was both luxurious and cozy. The hum of conversation and laughter suddenly quieted. then fell silent as people registered his presence. The hostess, a young woman in an elegant black dress, paused momentarily when she saw him. Her professional smile faltered slightly as she stepped forward. Elon could read the hesitation and deliberation in her eyes, a reaction he would never have encountered in his usual appearance. The hostess cast a quick glance toward the bar, where the manager stood observing the situation with a cautious expression. "I'm so sorry," she said with a forced politeness, "but we're fully booked tonight." Elon glanced around the room, where at least 5 tables were clearly unoccupied. He said nothing, standing silently and letting the uneasy quiet amplify the tension. In that moment, a young voice spoke from behind. "I can serve this guest." Emma stepped forward, her neat black server uniform complementing her poised and confident demeanor. Her delicate features radiated calm, despite having only worked at the Copper Elm for a few months. Her eyes met Elon's without the judgment or disdain he had encountered from others. "Follow me," she said gently, leading him to a table near the kitchen. It wasn't the best spot in the restaurant, but it was a decent place to sit. As they walked, Elon caught whispers from the other patrons. "This is unbelievable," a woman in an evening gown murmured to her companion. "This place is really going downhill." "They should have higher standards for their clientele," the man across from her added, not bothering to lower his voice. Emma placed a menu in front of Elon, her tone as warm as it would be with any other guest. "Please take a look at the menu. I'll be back in a moment." As she returned to the bar, she met the disapproving gaze of the manager, but it didn't faze her. During her months of working to save money for culinary school, she had learned that treating people with respect was far more important than pandering to others' prejudices. Elon slowly browsed the menu while discreetly observing the reactions around him. A young couple at the next table kept glancing at him nervously, as if afraid he might ask them for money. Other servers avoided walking past his table, and when they had to, they quickened their steps. "Have you decided what to order?" Emma asked as she returned, notebook and pen in hand. "I'll have the tomato soup and bread," Elon replied softly. "Just that?" Emma asked, her voice genuinely caring. "We have many wonderful dishes on our menu." "That's all," he confirmed. "Thank you." When Emma brought out the soup, her movements were just as graceful and respectful as they were with any other customer. She carefully placed the bowl in front of him, straightened the napkin, and offered a warm smile. "Enjoy your meal." As Elon ate, the atmosphere in the restaurant grew increasingly tense. An older woman called Emma over, her tone sharp. "Why are you wasting your time on someone like that? People like him shouldn't even be allowed in here." Emma's cheeks flushed, but her voice remained firm. "Ma'am, I believe everyone deserves to be treated with respect." Elon continued to observe how Emma handled these difficult situations. She moved between tables with professionalism, ensuring every customer was served attentively, regardless of their attitude toward her or her unusual guest. As the meal neared its end, a male server approached Elon's table, his demeanor clearly intended to usher him out. "Are you going to order anything else?" he asked pointedly. "No, thank you," Elon replied calmly. "Well then," the server hesitated, clearly wanting to suggest he leave. It was then that Elon decided to end his experiment. He stood up and walked toward the center of the dining room. Every eye in the room turned to him, some filled with irritation, others with apprehension. The manager quickly approached. "Sir, if you've finished your meal—" Elon raised a hand, cutting him off. In a deliberate motion, he removed the wig. The room fell into complete silence as his real face came into view. "Elon Musk?" Someone gasped in disbelief. "That's correct," he said, his voice no longer soft. "Tonight, I came here not as a billionaire or a famous entrepreneur. I came as someone you deemed unworthy of being here." Emma stood frozen in place, still holding a tray of empty glasses, her eyes wide with shock. The entire restaurant remained utterly silent. "I've witnessed how people treat those they consider beneath them," Elon continued. "I've seen the disdain in their eyes, heard the whispered remarks, and felt the discrimination." He turned to Emma. "But there was one person, just one in this entire room, who treated me with respect and dignity. Not because she knew who I was, but simply because she believes that every person deserves to be treated that way." Elon gestured for Emma to step forward. Her face turned red with emotion and surprise as she approached. "I was only doing what I thought was right," she said softly. "No," Elon shook his head. "You did much more than that. You showed that kindness and respect are not determined by a person's status or appearance. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope, handing it to Emma. This is a reward for your compassion. With trembling hands, Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000 and a small note that read, "Thank you for proving that kindness still exists in this world. Pursue your dreams, whether it's culinary school or anything else." Tears streamed down Emma's cheeks as she read the words. The restaurant's atmosphere had transformed completely, no longer filled with disdain or disgust, but now with shame and introspection. Elon turned to the manager. "And as for this restaurant, remember that true class lies in how we treat those who have nothing to offer us." Before leaving, he added to Emma, "Never lose what makes you special. It's rarer and more valuable than any expensive dish on this menu." As Elon Musk left the Copper Elm, the room was cloaked in a heavy air of shame and remorse. The woman who had chastised Emma for serving a drifter now sat frozen in her chair, her elaborately made-up face flushed with embarrassment. Her trembling hand set down her coffee cup, producing a faint clink as it met the porcelain saucer. In the corner, the young couple who had been uncomfortable with Elon's presence now avoided each other's gaze. The husband quietly wiped sweat from his brow with a napkin, while the wife whispered, "I feel terrible. We—" She couldn't finish her sentence, her voice choked with emotion. The manager, once proud of the restaurant's upscale image, now leaned against the bar with slumped shoulders. He stared at the floor, Elon's words echoing in his mind. His tie felt unusually tight, as if it were constricting his throat. The server who had tried to usher Elon out slumped into an empty chair, his face pale. "I treated Elon Musk like a—" he mumbled, unable to finish the thought. The snide remarks and dismissive gestures he had made now haunted him like a nightmare. At a window-side table, a group of business people sat silently, their expensive wine glasses forgotten. The man who had loudly complained about the standards of the restaurant now sat meekly, his shirt collar feeling suffocatingly tight. Finally, one of them spoke, his voice subdued. "We've just learned a very costly lesson about judging others." Emma stood amidst the stifling atmosphere, tears still streaming down her face, but not from sadness. These were tears of emotion, of pride for having done the right thing. She looked down at the check in her hand, but for her, the true value wasn't in the numbers. It was in the lesson about character that everyone in the room had just learned. An unusual silence enveloped the restaurant. It wasn't the silence of emptiness, but a profound quiet born of deep reflection, as patrons wrestled with their own biases and prejudices. Sighs, whispered apologies, and occasional choked sobs from those unable to contain their emotions formed a symphony of regret and enlightenment. Within hours, the story spread like wildfire across social media. Videos recorded by diners quickly went viral, garnering millions of views and shares. Hashtags like #showing Elon Musk experiment and kindness matters trended globally. Major news outlets scrambled to cover the unique social experiment. Articles offered in-depth analyses of discrimination in modern society, while psychologists and sociologists were invited to discuss its implications and lessons. The Copper Elm, once an upscale but relatively obscure restaurant, became the center of attention. The management swiftly implemented transformative changes, including new training programs, emphasizing absolute respect and non-discrimination toward all patrons. "We've learned a valuable lesson," the manager shared in an interview. "The true class of a restaurant isn't just in its menu or ambiance. It's in how we treat everyone who walks through our doors." For Emma, life changed completely. With the reward from Elon, she was able to pursue her dream of attending one of the world's top culinary schools. But more than that, her story became an inspiration for countless others. "I don't think I did anything extraordinary," Emma shared during a national television interview. "I just treated others the way I would want to be treated. Sometimes kindness is as simple as seeing someone as a person, not judging them by their appearance." In the following months, the story continued to spark positive change. Many restaurants and businesses adopted new policies focused on respectful customer service. Schools began incorporating the story into ethics and social responsibility curricula. Elon Musk, in a rare speech about the experiment, remarked, "Technology can change the world, but it's kindness that makes the world worth living in. Sometimes we get so caught up in building the future that we forget the most fundamental values of humanity. Emma has since graduated from culinary school and is preparing to open her own restaurant. She named it Kindness Kitchen, embodying a simple philosophy. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and dignity, no matter who they are. Every day when I open the doors of my restaurant, I remember the lesson from that day, Emma said. It's not the finest dish, but kindness that leaves a lasting impression and keeps people coming back. The story of Elon Musk's social experiment has become a symbol of the power of kindness and the necessity of challenging prejudice in modern society. It reminds us that sometimes seemingly small actions can create profound changes in the lives of others. The experiment left a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed it and the millions who read about it afterward. The Copper Elm is no longer just a fine dining restaurant. It has become a symbol of humanity and the true value of human decency. Emma, with her compassionate heart, not only transformed her own life, but also inspired countless others. Her story reminds us that even the smallest gestures of kindness can have a monumental impact. Dear friends, the story of Elon Musk's social experiment is more than just a tale to read and share. It's a powerful reminder that each of us has the opportunity to make a difference in someone else's life, no matter how small the action may seem. Many of you might have experienced similar situations. Perhaps you've been judged, or perhaps you've unintentionally judged someone based on their appearance. Share your stories and experiences in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, leave a like to support meaningful content. Share this story to spread the message of kindness and respect. Subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. Turn on notifications to stay updated on our latest content. Remember, kindness is the language which the deaf can hear and the blind can see. Mark Twain.